My name is Jacob Nunez.
I'm Noah Marquand.
Sam Albert.
I'm Michael Thompson. Satellite design is kind of something that I want to go into, and I thought it was a really interesting problem. Actually, before this competition, I had never really heard of this before. I had never seriously, looked into it beyond just, that's a crazy idea. That seems kind of neat. But yeah, I thought that it would be an interesting problem to look into, and I really enjoyed understanding that it's more feasible, at least, than I thought. It's not just some sci-fi concept.
All of us are really interested in space and ideas about the space industry, but you don't necessarily have a lot of time on your hands as a student to go read, papers from the 70s about it. But this kind of gave me a way to, have a better reason for spending time researching into this concept and getting to learn more about it.
I haven't had any experience with a major technical project before working on this, so I was looking for something that would be really interesting and also really involved. Almost the opposite of what Michael said, where I wanted something that's kind of more sci-fi. I just like the advanced technology stuff.
Definitely getting to work on a technical project, getting more involved. I was a freshman when we started the project. I wanted to see what you could do in clubs, and SEDS was hosting this competition, so I wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah, so like we talked about during the presentation, when we were looking into previous proposals for this design, a lot of them are massive. The amount of money they require is kind of makes you lean back a little bit. And so we wanted to say, let's look 10 to 15 years ahead and see if we can scale down a little bit on the scope of previous proposals. So we made, I would say, modest assumptions about the efficiency of solar panels advances a little bit, thermal dissipation technology improves, but we didn't really assume any groundbreaking technologies for our design. We wanted it to be something that, in theory, you could actually implement over the next 10 to 15 year time span.
Well, it's largely constructed of many reflector satellites that then focus the energy down onto a concentrated solar photovoltaic array that can then beam power to the ground by a microwave.
Thermal problems for sure. We were looking at liquid droplet radiators, but that's something that is still mostly conceptual right now. It's not something that's been tested on a satellite, at least to our knowledge. We don't believe that they've been tested on any satellite. So that's something that we would definitely want to look at. The weight of the transmitter was a majority of the, or I'm not sure if it was a majority, but it was definitely a very large portion, the largest singular component of our hub satellite was the transmitter. So we think that in order for this to be realistic or more feasible, that's something that we would need to cut down the mass of. Even if we can get past all of those technological hurdles, it still faces a lot of political or regulatory issues. If we chose microwaves in our design, but another pretty common design is to try and do this with lasers, and that's something that we feel like would not fly internationally. That's something that would get shot down pretty quick. And even with microwaves, there's no real guarantee that that would go through really smoothly. It's still a very new area. Currently, Japan is trying to implement a test satellite like this for the next 5 to 10 years, and they're not receiving any pushback yet. But that's still something that we're going to need to look at to see if there is any pushback with microwave transmission.
I think the biggest hurdle of this entire project is the economics of it.
Right.
So the cost to space is very, very high. The developing of a satellite, the production and manufacture of it is very expensive. So the biggest hurdle is just getting the economics to fit. If it fit, then we think that this project would exist.
It's definitely feasible. It's just, can you afford it?
I got to research some about the power transmission, and so it was interesting reading about William C. Brown in particular, Raytheon Company, doing tests at JPL. And so for me, it's always kind of an interesting component. I'm started off trying to research developing technology, I ended up reading about Nikola Tesla. That seems to happen a lot for some reason. So I guess, is it a little bit tangential to your question because it wasn't specifically satellite industry and what I was working on, but I got to read about what's the state of the art of a technology being microwave power transfer, read IEEE proposals for testing this in orbit, and also read papers from the 70s about and 80s about actually testing this and its development. And actually Purdue played a significant role in that as well, so that was cool for me as well.
From an outside perspective, almost half of the stuff that I was reading and researching was not related to solar satellites in the slightest. I spent a lot of time reading about telescopes, about swarm communication, and figuring out how all those systems can be used to implement our design.
I definitely learned a lot about photovoltaics. Like they kind of the popular ideas about them is that they're low efficiency. They've always been really expensive, and they don't produce that much power. But a lot of research is being done. There's a lot of work there. I think in the lab testings you can get up to 40% efficiencies, which is incredible compared to where we've been in the past. So learning about where that technology is coming was really interesting.
I learned a lot about a lot of the political issues, and I hadn't really considered that before with satellites. So there are a lot more stakeholders than you can imagine. When you just think of the satellite, you think, well, it's the people who are operating the satellite and the people who are getting whatever services the satellite's providing. But there's a lot more stakeholders than just that. And also, I got to look a lot into the orbital design, which before this, I understood what these orbits were, but it made me think more directly about, well, how are each of these orbits used, and what are the consequences of choosing, say, like a sun synchronous orbit or a geo orbit, or somewhere in between.
So we started off with I think 10 to 12 members on the team, and a different project manager who didn't end up sticking with the project. And I think we kind of learned it's really easy when you have a long time span to work on a project to not get much done, and then people kind of hang around without necessarily having a level of commitment to the project. And then obviously the four of us ended up having to really up our levels of commitment when we went from 10 to 4. And so I think I and Michael and I especially learned about kind of project management. How do you keep everyone involved, and assign, delegate tasks in a way that it's manageable, but also keep lines of communication open. I know that's a lot of vague stuff, but I definitely feel like I have good experience from it. And in the meantime, Noah and Jacob really stepped it up to make up for a lot of work that they didn't necessarily plan on doing at the beginning of the project.
That's one major skill that you definitely have to work on a team. You have to be able to pick up the slack and work on being flexible on what you're thinking about. And I didn't go into it necessarily thinking that I was going to have to do that, but that's one thing I really learned about this project, that even if people hadn't dropped out, I most likely would have had to do something like that. Go outside your comfort zone and learn about new things that you might not think you're interested in, but you'll find out how to make it interesting.
So I'm in aerospace engineering here at Purdue, and I think my career goals is to someday work on the projects that send people to Mars.
I am currently in aerospace engineering. I'm getting a minor in Earth, atmospheric, and planetary sciences, trying to branch out and get as many fields as I can. I am interested in human space exploration and hopefully want to be an astronaut, but we'll see.
I'm Sam Albert. I'm a junior in aerospace engineering here. I'm minoring in computer science and global engineering studies. I'm really interested as well in human space exploration, and so definitely getting involved with that would be a career goal. I'm also interested in some of the kind of things we talk about at this conference, making money in space. How does the commercial sector grow? Satellite industry is the only one making money in space. I'd really love to see that grow a lot beyond kind of the ComSat industry. So I guess those two things.
I guess one of the things that I've really been wanting to get into is remote sensing satellites. So whether that be Earth imagery, whether that be LiDAR, geographic data, I'm not exactly sure. I definitely have an interest in planetary science, planetary geology, but I'm kind of keeping my windows open. I'd like to go somewhere into that field, though, for sure.